Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Do you know that somewhere beyond the mountains, behind valleys, no human has walked for centuries, lies a story so old, so mysterious that even today people tremble when they hear its name. A story of nations that once roamed the earth with power and destruction. A story of people so vast in number that their shadows could darken the sun. A story of Yajuj and Majuj. For thousands of years, civilizations have risen and fallen. Empires have left behind ruins, kings have left behind their crowns, and warriors have left behind their swords. But hidden deep within the pages of forgotten history is a tale of two nations waiting behind a wall, waiting for the day the world will hear their footsteps again. But who are they? Why were they locked away? And what will happen when they finally return? Let me take you back to a time when the earth was young, when the kings were not just rulers but travelers, and when nations cried out for help against a force they could not defeat. The land was vast, wide, and untamed. Towering mountains kissed the skies. Rivers carved their way through valleys, and deserts stretched endlessly into horizons of fire. In those days, whispers spread from village to village, from tribe to tribe. Farmers, shepherds, and travelers spoke in hushed voices about a terror that lived beyond the hills. They come like a storm, the people would say. They drink our rivers dry. They eat everything in their path. They leave behind nothing but silence and ashes. Mothers would hush their children at night, warning them. Stay inside, or the shadows of Yajuj and Majuj will find you. These were not just bedtime stories, these were warning passed down through generations. And so the world waited, some hoped for a savior, others feared it was already too late. My dear friends, but one day a man appeared, not an ordinary man, a leader, a traveler, a king whose footsteps echoed across continents. His name is remembered in whispers and legends, but for now we shall call it the Great King. He was not just a ruler of lands, he was a seeker of truth, a seeker of justice. He didn't sit upon a golden throne waiting for reports to come to him. No, he walked among his people. He traveled to the edges of the earth, to the places where no map dared to mark, to the places where unknown swallowed the brave. And it was during one of these journeys that the cries of forgotten people reached him. My dear friends, they were simple folk living in a valley between two mountains. Their faces told stories of suffering. Their eyes carried the weight of sleepless nights. Their voices trembled with fear as they spoke of the invaders who lived behind the mountains. They said, Great king, beyond these ridges live nations unlike any other. They are countless, wild, and merciless. They destroy our homes, steal our food, and leave us in despair. We have tried to resist, but how can a flock fight a storm? We beg you, help us. My dear brothers and sisters, the great king listened. He did not dismiss their words as mere rumors. He didn't ignore their cries like many rulers would. He stood tall, gazing at the mountains, the very barrier that separated their innocent people from the cows behind. Beyond. And in that moment, the story of Jajuj and Majuj took a turn that would echo until the end of time. For it was here that a wall would be built, a wall not just of iron and stone but of hope. So, my dear friends, long before kingdoms were united under one banner, before cities of stone rose proudly onto the sky, the earth was divided. Tribes lived scattered across valleys, mountains, and deserts. Each tribe spoke a tongue of its own. They hunted, they They dreaded, but they also feared. And the greatest fear of all was of the tribe beyond the horizon. They were not just like ordinary people. They were a sea of faces, countless and restless. They came in waves, unending, unstoppable, like locusts devouring a field of crops. When Yajuj and Majuj marched, the ground itself seemed to tremble beneath their feet. The air filled with a roar, not of thunder, not of beast, but of men. Their cries echoed across valleys, shaking the heart of all who heard them. Villagers would gather their families and flee long before the army arrived. But no matter how far they ran, the shadow of Yajuj and Majuj spread faster. Imagine this: a farmer works in his field, sweat dripping from his bow, his children playing nearby. Suddenly, a sound rises in the distance. The farmer freezes, his wife steps out, her face pale. They both know what it means. The sound grows louder, the earth quakes. Dust rises on the horizon, and then they see them. Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, like an endless tide of humanity sweeping over the land. My dear brothers and sisters, the farmer drops his tool, he grabs his children, his wife gathers what little they can carry. But it's too late. The flood has come. The raiders consume everything. They take livestock, grain, fruit, anything edible, and what they cannot take, they burn. What they cannot eat, they destroy. Entire villages vanish in hours, leaving behind nothing but ashes and silence. It is said that even the rivers could not escape them. They drank the water until rivers' bed lay dry. They hunted the forest until no bird remained. And the people who survived carried stories, stories that spread like wildfire. One traveler, scared and broken, was once asked, "What did you see beyond the mountains?" His voice trembled as he replied, "I saw the sky darken with their numbers. I saw fields turn barren under their march. I saw men slaughtered, women crying, children taken, and I ran, I ran, I ran. I never looked back." Such tales spread across the ancient world, weaving fear into the hearts of kings and commoners alike. Some called Yajuj and Majuj the punishment of the earth, some called them the forgotten tribes of the north, but all agreed on one thing: where they passed, life would not remain. And so, when the people of the valley begged for help, their voices were not filled with mere desperation. They carried centuries of pain, centuries of terror, centuries of fear. They had no walls to defend themselves, no army strong enough to resist. They were lambs living at the edges of a forest full of wolves. But fate had brought them to Great King, a man whose journey across the earth was not just for conquest but for justice. He listened to their trembling voices, he saw the scars of their struggle, and deep within his heart, he knew this was not just their battle, this was a battle for all of mankind. The king looked toward the mountains, tall, proud, and ancient. They stood like silent guardians, keeping the horrors of Yajuj and Majuj at bay for now. And then, in a voice firm yet calm, he spoke, "Show me the path. Take me to the place where the tide rises. Take me to the land where fear is born. If these enemies are beyond, then together we shall build a barrier that even the storm could not break." The people fell silent. Hope flickered in their eyes. Could it be true? Could a wall really be built strong enough to stop Yajuj and Majuj? The elders gathered, their voices shaking as they warned them. "O king, they are countless. Their strength is beyond ours. Many have tried to stop them, but none have returned. Do not risk your men. Do not risk yourself." But the king only smiled. His eyes carried the fire of certainty. "Strength is not always in numbers," he said. "Sometimes strength lies in unity, sometimes strength lies in faith." And so it was decided. The great king would march towards the mountains. He would gather men, iron, and stone. He would summon fire and forge. And upon those ridges where the earth kissed the sky, he would leave behind a legacy that would echo through ages. A wall was about to be burned, a wall between cows and peace, a wall that would hold back the storm until the end of the time. My dear friends, the great king set forth with these men. Their journey took them across valleys, through deserts, and over rivers that shimmered like silver under the sun. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, but the king didn't stop. His soldiers followed in silence. They trusted him, for he was not a man of empty promises. Where he went, justice followed. At last, the mountains rose before them, two ridges standing side by side like colossal guardians of the sky. Their peaks pierced the heaven, their roots vanished into the earth, and between them a narrow passage. It was no ordinary pass, it was a gateway. Beyond it lay the unknown, beyond it lived the terror. The valley people led to the king to the mouth of his passage. Their voices quivered with as they spoke. Great King, this is the place. Beyond these ridges dwell the one we fear. When the wind will blows from that side, we hear their cries. When the night falls silent, we hear their drums. This is the door through which the storm enters. The king dismounted his horse. He stood tall, gazing at the vast mountains, his eyes narrowed, studying the rocky cliffs, the narrow gorge, the terrain. He ran his hand along the cold storm, as, as those listening to the earth itself. Then, in a voice steady and commanding, he said, "Here, this is where we shall stand. This is where we will build the wall." A murmur spread among the people. Some gasped in disbelief, others looked at one another, hesitant, doubtful. One elder stepped forward, his voice trembling. "O king, the wall must be mighty, stronger than stone, stronger than time. Can it truly be built?" The king turned to him with a smile that carried no doubt. "Every wall begins with a single stone," he said. "If we build together, nothing can break us." My dear brothers and sisters, and so preparations began. The people, once broken by fear, now found strength in hope. The king ordered for iron to be brought. Blacksmiths gathered, fires were lit, the sound of hammers striking metal filled the valley like a song of determination. Men carried rocks from the mountains, women brought wood for fire, children fetched water for streams. For the first time in years, the valley was alive with unity. The king worked among them. He was not a ruler who gave commands from afar. He lifted stones with his own hands. He stoked the fire. He hammered iron beside the blacksmith. His presence gave the people courage. Every clang of metal against metal was a heartbeat of hope. Every spark that flew from the furnace was a star of resilience. But not all was silent beyond the mountains. At night, strange sounds echoed from the gorge. Growls, shouts, the pounding of drum like thunder. The people shivered in fear. Mothers held their children close. Even the soldiers grew uneasy. One night, as the fires burned low and the workers rested, a scout came running, breathless and pale. "My king," he cried, I saw shadows upon the ridges. They move like waves, endless and restless. I fear they watch us." The king rose, his face calm. He walked to the mouth of the gorge and gazed into the darkness beyond. From a moment the world was silent, and then faintly came a roar, a deep roar that rolled across the valley like thunder. The men stared in fear, but the king lifted his hand. "Do not fear the roar of the storm," he said softly. "Fear only the weakness of your heart. From the storm can be blocked, but a weak heart will always fall."
Days
His
turned
words
into
sank
weeks. The
deep,
mountain
deep into
gorge
their
became
souls,
a
and
place of
so they
fire and
returned to
steel.
work with
The king
renewed
commanded that
determination.
layers of iron be forged together. Massive sheets, glowing red from the flames, were dragged by ropes and chains and fitted tightly between the ridges. The clang of hammers echoed day and night. The smoke of furnaces rose like black clouds, and the valley became a city of labor. The people worked tirelessly, their hands blistered, their backs ached. but their hearts beat with hope. For every strike of the hammer, they imagined a safer tomorrow. The king oversaw every step. His voice rose above the noise of labor. Stronger, higher, let no gap remain. Build it as if your children's future depends on it, for indeed it does. And so the wall began to rise. My dear listeners, finally the time came for the greatest task, sealing the wall with molten fire. Huge cauldrons were filled with ore and stone. Flames roared as the furnaces blazed hotter than ever before. The workers, their faces glowing red from the heat, poured the molten mixture into the cracks of the iron sheets. The liquid fire hissed and sizzled, binding the wall into one impenetrable barrier. The gorge glowed with a fiery light, as though the very mountains were aflame. The night sky turned red, and the stars themselves seemed to watch in silence. When at last the fires dimmed and the smoke cleared, there stood the wall, tall, mighty, immovable, a wall of iron and fire. The people gasped, tears filled their eyes. For the first time in generations, they felt safe. One mother whispered, holding her child close, "No longer will I fear the footsteps of the storm, the wall stands, and with it our hope." My dear friends, the great king stood before the wall, his face calm but firm. He placed his hand upon the cold iron and declared, "This wall shall stand as long as it is destined. No force of man can break it. It will fall only when the appointed time comes." And with those words, the valley knew peace. My dear friends, the wall was finished. Its iron skin shone beneath the sun like a blade, and in the moonlight it stood like a silent guardian. For the first time in countless years, the valley slept in peace. Children played without fear, farmers tilled their fields without looking over their shoulders. Traders crossed the valley roads without trembling at every sound. The cries of Yajuj and Majuj, once a nightly terror, faded into whispers carried by the wind. Time moved on, seasons changed. Winters blanketed the mountains in snow, and summers painted the valley in gold. Crops grew, rivers flowed, and laughter returned to the land. The great king eventually departed, as all men must. Some say he returned to his journeys, traveling to the ends of the earth. Others says he vanished into the horizon, never to be seen again, but his legacy remained the wall. The people of the valley, once trembling in fear, became guardians themselves. They taught their children, "Honor the wall, for it protects us. Respect the memory of the great king, for he saved us." And so the first generation grew with gratitude. They remembered the nights of terror, the stories of running from the shadow of Yajuj and Majuj. They looked at the wall not just as iron and stone, but as a miracle of survival. But memory is a fragile thing. My dear listeners, as decades passed, new generations were born who had never seen the cows. They had not run from villages in flames. They had not hidden in caves, trembling as footsteps shook the earth. To them, the wall was just a wall, a mountain of iron that had always been there. Children played at its base, carving their names into the stone nearby. Traders passed it without a second glance. Shepherds led their flocks close to its shadow as if it were nothing more than part of the mountain. The stories of Yajuj and Majuj became bedtime tales. Parents told them to frighten their children into obedience. "Sleep early, or the ones behind the wall will hear you," they whispered with a smile. What was once terror became folklore. What was once survival became legend. Centuries rolled by, civilizations rose and fell around the valley, kings came and went, wars were fought and forgotten, yet the wall stood silent and unbroken. Travelers who passed through the region would look at the wall with awe. Some would ask, "What is this?" And the people would shrug. It was built long ago to hold back an enemy that never came. How quickly they had forgotten. The valley became prosperous, markets flourished, songs were sung, and as wealth and comfort grew, the memory of fear faded even further. One night, as elders sat by the fire, a child asked, "Grandfather, is it true that monster live behind the wall?" The old man looked into the flames, his eyes clouded with the weight of years. He remembered the tales his own grandfather had told him, stories of rivers drained, of forests burned, of endless footsteps. "Yes," the elder whispered, it is true." The children giggled, "But the wall is strong, nothing can pass it." The old man sighed. He wanted to believe it too. He wanted to trust that the wall would stand forever. But deep inside, he knew nothing of this world is forever. My dear listeners, and indeed beyond the ridges, behind the iron barriers, Jajuj and Majuj had not vanished. They had not been destroyed. They waited, they grew, they multiplied. In the darkness of their prison, they pounded against the wall. Claw marks scared its surface. The echoes of their roars rattled the stones. They dug with their hands, their tools, their teeth. Day after day, year after year, they tried to break free. But every time when they were close, when light began to seep through, something stopped them. The wall remained, their claws bled, their tools broke, but still they never gave up, for their hunger was endless, their thirst unquenchable, and their eyes were fixed on the world beyond, a world fat with crops, rich with rivers, soft with comfort. My dear brothers and sisters, back in the valley, life went on. Festivals were held beneath the shadow of the wall. Merchants used it as a landmark for trade. Travelers admired its strength, carving their journeys into the rocks nearby. But the wall itself, silent, cold, eternal, hid a secret. Every strike, every roar, every step from beyond echoed through its iron belly, and though the people no longer heard, the earth did. The mountains trembled ever so lightly. Cracks invisible to the human eye began to creep along its edges. The storm was not gone, it was waiting, and one day when the appointed time came, the wall would no longer hold. Generations lived and died in peace, believing the terror was gone forever. But behind the iron, an army grew restless. Their cries grew louder, their numbers grew greater. The people had forgotten, but Jajuj and Majuj had not. Centuries passed, and the wall still stood. To the people of the valley, it was no more than an ancient relic, a monument of forgotten days. But deep within its iron heart, change had begun. Tiny cracks so small they could not be seen by human eyes crept across its surface. At first, they were nothing more than hairline scratches, harmless, invisible, but to those imprisoned behind it, they were a promise. For Jajuj and Majuj had never ceased their struggle. Every day they struck the wall. Every night they clawed at its surface. Their roars shook the mountains. Their breath steamed in the cold. Their hunger burned like fire. And then one day something different happened. A stone cutter from the valley was working near the ridges rock for his craft. His hammer struck the cliff, and as his sound echoed, he paused. Another sound followed, a low, deep rumble coming from within the wall itself. He leaned closer. The surface was cold, but it vibrated, as though something alive was moving inside. Then he saw it, a thin line running across the iron like the vein of a leaf. Fear gripped him. His chisel fell from his hand. He stumbled back, staring at the crack that seemed to breathe. That night he told the elders, but they laughed. The wall has stood for centuries. Do you think your tired eyes saw it and rest, old man? The wall will outlive us all. But the stonecutter knew what he had seen, and when he closed his eyes, he still heard it, the faint pounding, the distant roar. Over the next years, more signs appeared. Shepherds claimed their flocks grew restless near the wall. Travelers swore they heard voices echoing at night, voices that were not human. Children who played near the ridges returned pale, whispering of shadows that moved on the other side. The valley grew uneasy. Fear, once forgotten, began to stir again. But comfort is a powerful thing. The people dismissed the warnings, choosing laughter over worry, choosing denial over fear. Stories, they said, old tales meant to forgotten. And so life went on. Markets thrived, festivals continued, yet beneath the surface unease lingered. Behind the wall, the nations of Yajuj and Majuj had grown beyond imagination. What was once a restless tribe and became an ocean of humanity. Their eyes glowed with hunger, their mouths with greed. They dreamed of the world beyond, the rivers, the forests, the fields heavy with crops, the cities rich with gold and silver. To them, the wall was not a prison, it was a challenge they were determined to break. And now, with every strike, every claw, the cracks spread wider. One evening, as the sun sank behind the mountains, painting the sky in blood red hues, a traveler arrived at the valley gate. His clothes were torn, his face pale, his eyes wide with terror. He collapsed before the people, gasping for breath. They are coming, he whispered. I saw the wall. It bleeds fire. It trembles like a beast. The cracks are growing. The crowd laughed nervously. You are mad, they said. The wall has never broken. But the traveler only shook his head, his voice hoarse. I hear them. I saw their hands pressing through. If the wall falls, the world will fall. And with that, he fainted. The people were unsettled, but once again they comforted themselves. He's only a mad wanderer, they said. The wall is strong, it always has been. Yet, in the silence of the night, many lay awake, hearing distant rumbles carried on the wind. Days turned into months, the cracks deepened, small stones fell from the ridges, rolling into the valley. Birds no longer perched near the wall, animals refused to graze in its shadow. The earth trembled more often now, not violently, but enough for cups to rattle, for doors to creak, for people to glance nervously at one another. And every time the wind howled through the gorge, it carried with its echo of voices, voices that roared, shouted, and screamed. The old were reminded of tales they had long buried. The young, who once laughed at bedtime stories, now shivered under their blankets. The wall was changing, the prison was weakening, and those behind it waiting. The people had forgotten their fear, but the cracks had begun, and soon the forgotten storm would rise again. The cracks had spread like veins of lightning across the wall. Each day the pounding grew louder. Each night the valley trembled under the force of blows from the other side. Then one morning the sound was different. It was sharper, stronger, closer. The people gathered near the ridges, staring at the trembling barrier. The iron shivered, the copper veins glowed red, and smoke hissed from the cracks. Suddenly, a defending roar shook the mountains. The wall split, with a sound like thunder tearing the sky. The iron burst apart. Shards flew like arrows. Fire poured from within, and the earth itself quaked. The prison had fallen. From the smoke emerged shadows, from the shadows came eyes, red, glowing, filled with hunger. And then, with a sound that drowned even the storm, the first of Yajuj and Majuj stepped into the light. They were countless, a sea of men, but more savage than beasts. Their hair white, their face fierce, their bodies hardened by centuries of confinement. They poured forth like a blood, screaming, roaring, trampling the earth under their feet. The valley shook with their arrival. My dear friends, the people ran, but where could they run? The first villages fell within hours. Fields were stripped bare. Rivers ran dry as they drank them to the last drop. Forests vanished, their trees cut down, burned, and consumed. Animals were hunted to extinction. Crops were devoured in moments. Homes were torn apart. Their stones used for fire, their wood for fuel. Everywhere they went, they left emptiness. Like locusts, they consumed everything in their path, but unlike locusts, they hungered not only for food but for power, land, and conquest. The world had never seen such numbers. They were not thousands, not millions, they were an ocean without end. Mountains shook under their march, valleys drowned in their footsteps. The sky itself darkened as the smoke rose to cover the sun. Nations tried to resist, armies were raised, swords clashed, arrows filled the skies. But what are armies against a flood? What is steel against an ocean? For every one that fell, 10 more surged forward. Great cities once poured, proud and mighty, crumbled within days. towers that touched the skies were brought to dust. Walls that had stood for centuries collapsed like sand. The people fled desperate to escape, but Jajuj and Majuj were everywhere. They scaled mountains, crossed rivers, stormed fortresses, and burned everything they touched. Merchants abandoned their gold, kings fled their palaces, farmers left their lands. No one was safe. My dear listeners, the chaos was not only on land, the very balance of nature seemed to falter. The skies grew red with fire and smoke. The earth shook with every march. Rivers turned to mud, forests to ash, fields to barren dust. It was as if the world itself had surrendered. And in every direction, the cry was the same. They are here, Jajuj and Majuj are here. For the first time in history, mankind realized its weakness. Border no longer mattered. Nations no longer mattered. The flood of Jajuj and Majuj cared nothing for kings or crowns, rich and poor, strong and weak. All fled alike. Some hid in mountains, some hid in caves, some prayed, weeping for deliverance. But everywhere despair spread faster than hope. For how can one fight an endless sea? The world had changed, the prison was no more, and the flood of chaos had been unleashed. But this was only the beginning. The world had never witnessed such a storm. Yajuj and Majuj spread like wildfire across the earth. Every valley echoed with their roars. Every mountain trembled under their march. Every city fell silent after their passing. What once was green turned into dust. What once was flowing turned into dry cracks. What once was safe turned into ruins. Kings had gathered their armies, generals had drawn maps of strategy, fortresses had been reinforced, walls raised higher, weapons sharpened. But when the tide of Yajuj and Majuj arrived, all preparations melted away like wax before fire. Swords shattered, shields splintered, walls crumbled as if they were made of clay. No throne was secure, no palace was untouched. Kings fled in like beggars, queens wept in silence, princes vanished in the chaos. The age of kingdoms was ending, the age of survival had begun. Imagine the streets of a once busy city, merchants calling, children playing, families laughing. Now imagine the same streets, silent, abandoned, blackened by smoke, stained by blood. Mothers carried their children on their backs, fleeing from shadows that seemed to follow them no matter where they went. Fathers looked to the skies, helpless, unable to protect their homes. The old and weak collapsed by the roadside. The young ran until their feet bled. Everywhere the cry rose, where is safety? Where is refuge? But there was none. Rivers that once sparked under the sun were now empty beds, drunk dry by the endless hordes. Forests that once echoed with birdsong were now wastelands of ash. Fields once heavy with harvest were now barren dust, their soil torn apart. Even the animals fled, deer, birds, and cattle vanished, either hunted or starved. The balance of the world was broken. It felt as though the very earth was groaning under the weight of chaos. And above all, the sky, smoke rose endlessly, blotting out the sun. Day became night. The moon appeared red, a witness to the bloodshed below. The stars seemed dim, as though the heavens themselves appeared to mourn. It was not only the body that suffered, it was the soul. Men began to whisper in fear, is this the end? Is this the punishment promised? Is this the end of our world? Hope became rare. Laughter disappeared, songs were forgotten. Every heart carried only two emotions, fear and despair. The hordes did not rest. They didn't tire. They did not retreat. They surged across plains, scaled mountains, crossed rivers, and swept through cities. It was said that their numbers were so vast that if one man stood on a mountain and looked across the horizon, he would see nothing but the endless wave of Yajuj and Majuj, stretching as far as the eye could see. An ocean of humanity, yet without mercy, without pause, without end. The voices of mankind rose together, not in war but in prayer. Men fell into their knee. Women lifted their hands. Children wept. They begged for help. They begged for deliverance. They begged for an end to the nightmare. For they knew no army, no wall, no king could save them now. Only the heavens could intervene. The world stood on the edge of despair. The hordes of Yajuj and Majuj had stripped the earth bare. No water remained, no harvest grew, no city stood tall. It seemed as if the story of mankind was about to end. And then, when the cries of humanity rose higher than the smoke of destruction, the answer came. The heavens stirred, the winds changed, the earth itself seemed to pause as though waiting for the command. And then it happened. A force unlike any seen before swept across the world. Not the hand of man, not the sword of kings, but the decree of Almighty. From within the endless horde, weakness spread. Their strength withered, their bodies faltered, their voices turned from roar to cries. One by one they collapsed, not by sword, not by spear, not by arrow, but by a punishment unseen. The ocean of destruction became a field of silence, where moments before there had been chaos and thunder. Now there was stillness. The terror that had shaken the earth for centuries was over. But the world was scared, rivers were dry, forests gone, fields barren, the land bore the wounds of cows, and yet slowly the healing began. The skies cleared, the sun returned, the birds sang once more, life fragile yet resilient. Resilient began to rise from the ashes. The story of Jajuj and Majuj was not just about fear, it was not just about destruction, it was about a lesson that no matter how powerful humanity believes itself to be, no wall, no weapon, no army can stand against the decree of destiny. And no matter how dark the world become, there is always hope when hearts turn to the Almighty. And so, dear listeners, the tale of Jajuj and Majuj reaches its end. From the rise of great king who built a wall of iron, to the flood of cows that once threatened the very survival of mankind, to the final moment when deliverance came not from man but from the heavens. This story is more than history, it is more than legend. It is a mirror reminding us of the fragility of life, a mirror showing us the dangers of arrogance and chaos, a mirror teaching us that in the end it is not walls of the stone that protect us, but the strength of faith, unity, and reliance upon the Almighty, and reliances upon the Almighty. So, as you leave this story today, carry its lesson with you. When you see injustice, remember the flood of destruction that arrogance can bring. When you feel fear, remember that no storm lasts forever. And when you lose hope, remember that mercy can arrive in the darkest of nights. Because the story of Yajuj Majuj is not just about them, it is about us, our choices, our future, our faith. If the story touched your heart, then share it so its lesson may live on. Reflect upon it, for stories are not only meant to be heard, but to be lived. And remember always, the end is not the end. It is a reminder, a beginner for those who take heed. Until we meet again in another story, another journey, another lesson, stay strong, stay hopeful, stay connected to the truth. For beyond every storm, the light always returns. See you soon. Allah Hafiz.